Hi, welcome back to Make It with Mod Podge. My name's Cathie and today I've got a really fun home decor tutorial to share with you. I am going to show you how you can cover a lampshade with your favorite fabric using Fabric Mod Podge. This is actually a really easy project to do, so it's a great beginner-friendly home decor project. We're going to use some craft paper and I'll teach you how to draft a pattern of your lampshade. I'm using some cotton fabric. This is a little bit heavier weight, a decorator weight fabric. Of course, that Fabric Mod Podge, and then I just have some decorative trim to finish it off. And I promise you, this is really a beginner-friendly project, but it's so fun for updating your room with your own customized look. All right, let's get on with the tutorial. I'm using 100% cotton decorator weight fabric. I grabbed this from Michael's, and my lamp and my lampshade were from Michael's as well. So I'm using craft paper to make my pattern, and I'm starting at the seam of the lampshade, and I'm gonna fold the paper back. I've got a pretty large chunk of paper here because we're gonna need to roll this lampshade in the paper. I'm folding it back and adding some tape just to secure it. And then I'm going to trim off a little bit of that extra there. And now I'm wrapping that paper around the lampshade, and I'm gonna fold it back a second time so that those two pieces meet up, and that works kind of as a seam. You can use wrapping paper here. I just don't advise using newsprint. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape that together just to hold it in place. And then I'm gonna trim down some of this paper because it is a little bit unruly and hard to work with when you've got so much paper going on, but you really do need quite a large piece to actually trace the pattern. And now I'm gonna trim the tops and the bottoms, but I'm not going directly to the edge. I'm leaving a couple of inches there, about 1.5 inches. And you will see we're gonna fold that under and create our seam allowance there. So I'm just tucking that in to get our exact line. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove this, and we'll mark out our seam allowance. You're gonna need some seam allowance for the edge and also for the top and bottom edge for folding into the inside of the lampshade. So I'm gonna add 3/4 inch to the top and the bottom, and I'm just marking that off, and then I'm gonna draw a line from the dots just to create a cutting line. So I'm going 3/4 inch from my little fold crease there. And then we'll just sketch that in. It does not need to be perfect. You can see my pattern is all sketched, and I'm gonna go ahead and trim that up. Okay, next we're gonna open up our fabric and go ahead and pin our pattern down. You'll definitely want to make sure you're highlighting the bits of the fabric that you want to showcase in the front of the lampshade. I'm going to cut and add 1/2 inch to this edge. We're going to fold that over, and that's going to be hemmed with the Mod Podge. So you can see I'm just cutting it a little bit bigger there, about 1/2 inch. And then the rest of the pattern I'm cutting right on the pattern line. So I'm using Fabric Mod Podge for this project. That's super important. And first we're gonna glue back that edge where we added the 1/2 inch. So I'm just adding a little bit of the Mod Podge there, and then we're gonna fold that back. You don't even need to iron it. We'll just press it with our fingers, and that will glue back and be secure. Now we're ready to start applying our fabric to the lampshade. So I'm adding the Fabric Mod Podge directly to the lampshade. I find this is a lot easier than putting it on the fabric. So let's start at the seam, and then we're going to place our fabric right on that seam, but we're centering it. So we've got a little overhang on the top and a little bit on the bottom. So press just to secure it. We'll flip that back, and we'll keep adding the Mod Podge and keep flipping the fabric until the entire lampshade is covered with the fabric. I'm smoothing with my fingers. You don't want to get any air bubbles there, so make sure you're pressing down. And if you find that you don't have enough Mod Podge at a part, just peel it back and add more. Now we're going to seal up that side seam, or I guess I should call it the back seam. I'm adding the Mod Podge. We're flapping that over. That's the side where we glued it back the 1/2 inch and pressed down. Now for the top and bottom edge, I'm just adding a little bit more of the Fabric Mod Podge there, and we'll just roll or fold that onto the inside. You could finish this off with a piece of twill tape or decorative trim if you wanted to, but we're gonna do our decorative trim on the outside, so I'm just rolling it to the inside. Some of the places where it's a little bit extra thick, I'm going to add a little piece of tape to secure it. So where I have those wire pieces, we're gonna go ahead and snip there. And we will go ahead and continue by adding the Mod Podge and gluing the top edge down. Every lampshade is a tiny bit different, but this technique's gonna work with these ones that are a little bit fluted or the same type that are up and down, just the straight up walled ones. All right, for those thick areas where the seams are, I'm just gonna add a little bit of tape until it's dry just to hold it down. And this is all gonna dry in about 40 minutes. Next, I'm gonna hot glue on some trim. I found this gorgeous pearl trim, so I'm gonna add a bead of it across the top and across the bottom. For this, I am using hot glue. For fabric trims, you could use hot glue or you could use the Fabric Mod Podge, whichever you find easiest. Look how great that looks. I love this sort of vintage chic look. Let's trim that away. Add a little bit more hot glue until the entire thing is covered with the pearl trim on the top edge and the bottom edge. This is such a simple way to create a custom look. You can coordinate this by creating some pillows with the same fabric or doing some mats for photo frames. It's really endless, but doing these lampshade makeovers is such a cute way to add a little punch of color to a room. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be back here next week with another fun project to share with you. And until then, have a super crafty week. Bye.